This is Anshul Arora from eHealth Consultancy and Migration Services, and we have with us Louise McCarthy, the Regional Manager from Southern Cross University. As we said in our last episode, we will be back with some more information regarding the coronavirus. We're having a detailed discussion with Louise, who shared with us a few things about how the university is working with the students, potential students and current students, in terms of support, in terms of the education pattern, what they're doing to overcome this. They also shared a bit of information. Louise shared a bit of information on what the platforms have been offered by the Southern Cross University. Today we're going to talk a bit more on the information that has been given to us by the state government in regards to the coronavirus update. We're going to talk a bit more on what can be done going forward in terms of the TR visa holders who have lost their jobs, or any kind of students who are on dependent visas who have either of their family members in terms of students with any of the universities in Australia. And we'll talk about Southern Cross University in particular, because we all know that in the last few weeks we've seen a terrible downfall in terms of employment. We've had a lot of the Australians lose their jobs. When I refer to Australians, I'm referring to the permanent and the temporary residents. I call them Australians purely for the reason that they are living on the Australian soil, they're contributing to the Australian economy, they're working within the community, they're studying within the community, they're equally Australians as anyone else. Louise, now we all know that a lot of our Australians have lost jobs because employers themselves are not in a sustainable position to continue their businesses. Whether we call it social distancing or whether we call it the government regulations in terms of the COVID-19. Is there any kind of support that the university is going to be offering these students or these applicants in terms of employment opportunities?
I'm so very glad that you've asked that. It's timely that I should raise this topic, because in fact, before all of this pandemonium set in, it had in fact been a topic that we were talking about a lot. First of all, may I say, absolutely, we're all very empathetic to the current employment, or would it be rather unemployment sector. There's been tens of thousands of jobs lost, and I guess Australia is not immune to that. That's a global space. The good thing that we can take from that is that, well, the interesting thing, the intriguing element is that the face of our employment or our jobs profiles are very much changing. Whereas in the past, both Australian residents and student visa holders might have sought employment in the likes of hospitality and those arenas. Those jobs have now kind of, at least temporarily, fallen off the radar, as you've rightly suggested, because of legislative social distancing rules and not being able to interact too closely with one another. But instead, we're noticing very quickly that there's a whole arena of employment that is popping up almost as a substitute. So obviously we're now, rather than being able to sit in restaurants, now that there's a real call for delivery drivers, for takeaway food options. There's also, in terms of essential goods and services, we need to keep our supermarkets running all the time, pharmaceuticals, all of those kinds of things. And this means sometimes some of those facilities are open around the clock. So those kind of big employers are still looking for people to do some of the graveyard shifts or some night packing to keep the shelves filled for people who are in self-isolation or quarantine. So that is the plus that I will take from that space. Added to that, from a Southern Cross perspective, we've recognised even in recent history, before COVID-19, that it's quite an overwhelming process when an international student steps foot on Australian soil, and they really just don't know where to begin with job hunting. So this is a work in progress, and we're very flexible to changing as the market is changing. But we've very seriously contemplated, as an add-on student service support for our very valued students, in appointing ourselves somebody that we might refer to as a job support officer. And they will have expertise in the realm of jobs hunting, or a careers expert, as it were. I'm not necessarily talking about professional careers because of course Southern Cross, not unlike other universities, has a very specially designed careers development team, and they work on professional portfolios and seeking out internships, and none of that will change. This is an add-on suite. So this will be someone who cultivates a student's resume. You know, for many students, they may not have had work experience in the past, and that might be a new phenomenon for them. So we'll help take them through that. And culturally speaking, the whole process of cold calling an employer or walking into a shop or residence with a resume can be a little bit intimidating. So we might do some on the job skills about how to present yourself, what to wear, how to present yourself for a physical drop-in interview and the likes. All of those things will even point them in the right direction of where do you find jobs in Australia? You know, what are the applications we use? Seek.com or local employment agencies. All of those mediums will pull together, and that person, that go-to person, will be a handholder, as it were. So yes, in answer to your question, we are very much aware of that as being a problem, and would like to offer a solution.
Thanks, Louise. That's good to know, guys. I mean, the three important questions: where, how, and when, is what any job seeker would want answered. And if he or she can at least get the answer to one of them,
yes,
they at least know where to start.
I think we're arming them with the tools. You're absolutely right. There's never a guarantee at the end of that, and that's the honest answer. But if we can arm them with the abilities to seek out opportunities, then that's half the battle.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's half the battle won, rightly said. Louise, we talked in our earlier episode about the online modules. Let's stress a bit more on those. Now, we all know that as a part of the GTE requirements, an international student, I'm going to talk particularly for international students, they have to show funds from their respective countries based on the level of the university and their country level, the risk category level. Now, as we all know, a lot of the countries are heading into lockdown situations, which will mean that they wouldn't have access to those funds. They wouldn't have access to their parents being able to send them money in Australia, because the local bank itself, like let's say India for that matter, India has been put into a lockdown for 21 days, which means that they cannot access any banking services. They may not be able to do online transfers. And at this stage, we know that Prime Minister Mr. Scott Morrison hasn't declared anything of that sort. But I mean, people have said, or people do believe that we should also go into a total lockdown to fight this pandemic. And I guess if that happens in Australia, we will also be in a similar situation. Is there any kind of financial relief that the universities are offering, or particularly Southern Cross University is offering to their students?
Let me answer that in two ways. First and foremost is that our responsiveness will be dynamic, in that however this situation changes and spins and turns, our senior executive management team are meeting literally daily, because things are changing daily, and they're addressing topical issues and coming up with the best possible and financially viable solutions. So behind the scenes, I spoke with our admissions manager this morning, and our risk ratings have come through, and Southern Cross are very grateful to be rewarded with a level 2. So we know also, and so from a profile perspective of our own reputationally, and knowing, as you've rightly said, the changing financial space in the community, we'll be redesigning our GTE format. So that's a watch and see. I believe that, because this is literally just this morning, so we'll have a new draft and distribute that to our agent partners as soon as it's available. So that's good news. I think we'll also be very receptive to, as you rightly pointed out, as the banking sectors are clamped down upon or frozen in time for a period, we'll be very receptive to that. You know, I think we're going to be very flexible to our closing times and application periods and the like. So that's a good thing. In terms of financial assistance, the best thing that I can pledge to you is I've actually launched this question myself with the Vice President and Director of International at Southern Cross University to request or to ask if we are in fact considering changing the fees for online modules as opposed to face-to-face education. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you for that today, but know that that is something that's being discussed. On the flip side though, what I can say is that particularly for the regions that I am responsible for recruitment for, and our number one sellers in those areas remain as India and Nepal. To a lesser degree, we've got Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan and the likes. All of those candidates would be eligible from a geographical perspective for what we would call a regional scholarship.
Okay.
And they are quite valuable in their monetary value. They are, just off the top of my head, it's an estimated value of between 8 and 10,000 Australian dollars per year. I say estimated because it was, before the pandemic, $8,000, and we are looking at potentially fattening the goodness in that remuneration, as it were. So that's a watch and see as well, but it could potentially be up to 10,000 per year. Now, that would apply to anybody under normal circumstances, and they were coming out, and that scholarship would be added session by session to their tuition fees. It would be taken off the total amount. We recognise that that's a different space now, and for those who are eligible for that scholarship, that will also be applied to online modules if they choose to enrol in those in session 2. So the good news is, regardless if the individual tuition fees are reduced or not, I'm happy to announce that I can take care of the students from my regions in particular, which will cover a great deal of your client base, I imagine, and that we can start applying that scholarship right from the outset if you choose to do the online modules.
Great. So, friends, as we know, Louise has just advised that she's happy to take on board the regions that she looks after, and any students from those areas can now contact their office managers or their regional offices, where, as Louise earlier mentioned, for any kind of further information or assistance in regards to these scholarships, further details can be taken from them, and as per the university's policies, you can apply for those scholarships as well. Thanks, Louise. That was really great. I mean, at this time, any kind of relief is a good relief, I should say.
Yes.
And a scholarship of that amount, it will actually come in handy at this time.
Absolutely. May I add one final point, and this is very much applicable to when things change. And you and I are on the same page here, and that we're remaining optimistic. It will change, it's just a matter of at what point, and I think we could launch then, or leverage from quite a negative experience into some more new positive outcomes. The other remuneration or financial assistance we are prepared to offer our international students are, of course, we're a regional university, so that in itself brings great worth, but one of our regional sites, the Lismore campus, a beautiful rural setting, we are prepared to offer a minimum, and this is up for review, it might even be more, of 6 months on campus accommodation bursary, absolutely free. So now that's forward thinking, that's for when our students are returning to us, but if they're choosing a degree program that's available on the Lismore campus, then they can have peace of mind in knowing that for at least 6 months they won't have any accommodation expenses whatsoever. We'll house them and take care of them.
That's absolutely fabulous news for our students, particularly those who have deferred their semesters and who, in all the positive attitude, are hoping to be back in Australia on student visas, particularly with the Lismore campus. That is a big financial relief to all those who have been thinking of applying to Australia. May I add to what Louise has said, accommodation in Australia can be really expensive, and as Louise mentioned, in the regional area can also be challenging to find, and this is one of the stress points that students usually have, particularly international students coming from different cultures, different communities who've not lived in a country like Australia, may I add, where we get lovely support. It's a blend of different cultures, it's a blend of different communities. So having the 6 months of free accommodation, rather I should say accommodation where you don't need to worry about it, where the university is looking after it, is a big sign of relief to all those students. Thanks, Louise. Really grateful to you for and the university for offering that to our students. Now, we all know that our Prime Minister, Mr. Scott Morrison, and the government has announced several financial benefits for the permanent residents, Australian residents. They've also announced the taxation department has also put forward several incentives for the business owners in terms of tax, in terms of payroll benefits. Is there something that you're aware of, Louise, that has been promised to, because I know that on 24th March, I was following a news bulletin where they were talking of providing some sort of financial incentive to the temporary residents as well. Now, is that something that you're aware of to start with? And if so, will that be coming from the university in terms of the government using the university as a pathway to students, or is that something that the students will need to approach the government directly?
I think the best way for me to answer that is I don't think it's been determined yet.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say, you're absolutely right, it's a discussion point. It's been tabled at government level and at the Vice-Chancellors across Australia's level for all of our multiple universities. The reality is international education is one of Australia's top 3 exports and will remain to be, let's be honest. It's a massive industry for Australia. So, and the government will recognise this. It would take a massive hit to their financial gut if they were not to recognise that. So I'm in agreement with you. I think it's been tabled as a discussion point. There are so many discussions going on at the moment about all kinds of financial assistance baskets for the very different categories in society that I'm not sure, and this is my own personal opinion, that it has been shored up just yet. I think it's still to be determined, but the faith that I can bring to you is that I know that my Vice-Chancellor, Adam Shoemaker, amongst the other panel of Vice-Chancellors, are very proactive in this space, and they'll certainly be fighting the good fight to have some kind of saviour in place for our very valuable students. So I think that's a watch this space. But as you rightly mentioned in our discussion off air earlier, it's a changing space every other day, and hopefully we'll have some good news soon.
Great. Guys, as we were discussing earlier, this is something that we all need to watch out for. As Louise just recently mentioned a few minutes ago, this is a changing space. We don't know what's going to happen the next minute. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. All we can do is we can be positive. We can hope that everything gets back to normal as soon as possible, because we all wanted to get back to normal. We can hope that this pandemic dies down quickly. Everyone gets back onto the business. People start getting their jobs back. People start getting back to their normal lives, which may take a bit of time to get back into. But again, I guess we should all be positive. What do you think, Louise? We need to be positive.
I absolutely agree. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The media whirling around us, social media, traditional commercial medias, they have us very much in the doldrums. It's a very grey, sad space right now. But I think the power of people, it's an old cliche, but I will borrow it for the purposes of our discussion today. My feeling is tough times don't last forever, but tough people do. So if we stand together, I can see a light at the end of the tunnel, and it isn't a train bearing down on us. It's better times to follow.
Rightly said, Louise. Tough times don't stay for longer, but tough people do. It's a good saying, guys. And as we all know, Australia is not in it alone. It's the whole world that has been caught in this pandemic.
Absolutely.
The whole world is trying to fight it out. Some have lost a lot of dear ones. Some are critical. So my sympathies to those who have lost their dear ones. Again, let's fight it out. Let's fight it together. Let's stand back on our feet. Let's bring Australia back to what it was before the pandemic. Let's make Australia strong again, guys. As we talked about in our discussion, there's a lot of speculation about what will happen for international students or temporary residents in terms of financial aid. Everything is on a case-to-case basis. The Australia government had announced a travel ban to China on February 1. We all know that at this stage, the Prime Minister has also announced a stage 2 shutdown on 24th of March. We don't know what's going to happen in terms of a complete Australia lockdown. We could see that happening, considering that a lot of the countries in the world have actually resorted to that as an end measure to fight this pandemic. the target should actually be is to fight it out and then get back onto normal. Queensland government had also implemented restricted entry to Queensland effective 12 a.m. on Thursday, 26th March 2020. This is the most updated information we have. We're waiting for further information in terms of university students or any kind of visa updates, and as and when we get it, we will share it with you through our social media. In the meanwhile, feel free to hit us up with questions or email through your queries on the email address provided at the end of this video. Louise has also earlier mentioned SCU has their concerned officers and their offices in a lot of the countries. Hit them up for any kind of questions you have for scholarships, any kind of support that is offered for online students or potential applicants who would want to enroll in the following trimesters or semesters with the university. We'll also want to pass on a message to all those visa holders who have a no further stay condition on their visas. At this point of time, the government is looking to waive those conditions in individual circumstances. So if you have any of the concerns regarding the no further stay, please contact us and any of the registered migration agents with eHealth Consultants Migration Services will assist you with that. If you have another visa related query where your visa is expiring, you're unable to travel back home due to the travel bans in your country, there's still possible solutions for you. If you're having parents, elderly parents who have visited you and whose visas are finishing and they're unable to go back, or you're concerned for their safety, please do contact us on the details provided here or any registered migration agent. Everyone should be able to help you out. It's all on a case-by-case basis. So viewers, please do not assume that it's the same scenario for everybody. I would like to thank Louise again for spending her valuable time in answering the questions and queries that hit us up for any phone consultation or video consultation. eHelp, as I previously said, is always there to support you. If you like this video, please share it. Give us a like on our Facebook page. Share this video with your friends. Stay safe. Please maintain social distancing. Listen to the instructions given by our Prime Minister. It's for your own good. It's only going to help you fight this battle. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Louise.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.